Welcome, everyone. I'm supposed to be in Sydney now, but due to the circumstances that we're all aware of, I couldn't get across the ditch from New Zealand to Sydney. I'm speaking now from the Krishna Bhakti Yoga School outside of Auckland. It's closed now, of course, but here during normal times when the school is open, it trains future yogis, meditators, those who can aspire for non-material happiness. And of course, they get a normal education also. We do need something that's deemed abnormal these days. We do need to use this present crisis to go deeper. That means indeed finding out what is deeper, how to experience that. Spirituality in a time of crisis. What is the yogic perspective? Let's first think about the value of a crisis. During the economic crisis, the global financial crisis of 2008, that seems like ancient history now, a mantra emerged. It actually came from an economist at Stanford University. He was speaking in reference to economic affairs, but we can use it. He said, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Let's think about that. A crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Some social scientists will tell you that real transformative change in human beings can only occur during times of stress or crisis, because then we're pushed to take our game to another level, to lift our game. And certainly the present circumstances are prevailing upon us to do that. We're worried about our health, our livelihoods. Indeed, we're worried about our future. We feel such compassion for those who are suffering because of the coronavirus, COVID-19. We feel sadness because of the economic havoc that many are incurring. Not only do we grieve about that, but we want to get to the root of the problem. So you see, the Bhakti Yoga knowledge that Krishna gives deals with all aspects of our existence, the material and the spiritual, because we are spiritual entities having a human experience. So we're kind of doing a juggling act. We have to acknowledge the roller coaster ride of happiness and distress that our temporary bodies and minds bring. And we also have to acknowledge that we're actually non-material entities. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, and you may note, those of you who have been to our talks in Sydney, You may note that Bhagavad Gita is the prime Bhakti Yoga text. There, Krishna explains that the true yogi sees the equality of all living beings, no matter the external circumstances of happiness and distress. That means the genuine yogi acknowledges the external happiness and distress and feels compassion for the sufferings of the bodies and minds. But at the same time, the genuine yogi and meditator feels the greatest grief because of the widely present spiritual ignorance. This is important because unless people experience their non-material self and have the applied spiritual technology for experiencing non-material happiness, they're not going to change. So this present crisis and the stress it brings can motivate us to go to a higher level. Let's not just focus on superficial solutions, although they have a place. The great paradox now. How much should we take measures to safeguard the people's health, and how much should we take measures to safeguard the people's economy? Those are legitimate concerns. But the yoga knowledge teaches us that there's a higher concern. Yes, acknowledge those concerns I just mentioned, certainly. But the higher concern and most essential concern is our non-material development, our getting in touch with the non-material self and experiencing what is non-material happiness. Only then can you see human beings put less stress on the planet. You see, our happiness footprint is too much. We may think we're just innocently going about our way, trying to be happy. But the earth can't handle what we think is required for our happiness. Our happiness footprint is not sustainable. Even before we get, as aspiring spiritualists, even before we get to the deep end of the pool, the deep spiritual knowledge and the experiences that it brings, let's consider how Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that someone who is wise sees the equality of all living entities, although their bodies are different. When we consider the havoc that human beings are causing to animals, then besides our grieving for our fellow human beings in this present crisis, we also grieve for the animals. Scientists have pointed out that 3 out of 4, 75% of the currently emerging infectious diseases have jumped from animals to human beings. These pathogens that have jumped are called zoonotic. 3 out of 4 of the emerging infectious diseases, 75%. Because human beings have a very exploitative, consumptive, and intrusive way of dealing with animals. So some persons say that these viruses that appear every few years or so. Remember, some years back it was the swine flu, it was the Asian bird flu. Even 100 years ago, the Spanish flu is said to have originated on a pig farm. Remember the mad cow disease from the UK? Feeding dead cows to living cows as their food. The heart of the issue, which we should easily be able to see, is that our relationship with nature is problematic. Our way of dealing with the animals is problematic. This is the heart of the issue that we can see with ordinary vision. Our relationship with the rest of the world, with the rest of the ecosphere, is disruptive. And the yoga knowledge teaches us that nature kicks back, and we're crying because of it. We're grieving because of it. In these stressful times, how do we deal with stress? Worrying about stress makes the stress increase. So how do we cope with one stressful situation after another? Is there a way to use stress to improve our health and well-being? Knowing that would be valuable knowledge on our way to the deep spiritual knowledge. And the deep spiritual knowledge is essential. In dealing with the stress that's just multiplying these days, because we're worried about our health or the health of our loved ones, we're worried about our livelihood, the livelihood of our friends and family. And what about the future? There have been bushfires, there's been drought, and now this. And then you look on a global level, and you see, on the one hand, 16,000 nuclear weapons in the world. On the other hand, there's climate change. In the gap between those two comes COVID-19. Human beings need to change. What we're seeing is that our human societies are an experiment out of control. A dangerous experiment because of such an unnatural relationship with nature. So the yogis, the meditators, are concerned about this. Yes, the body is temporary, the mind is temporary, but how can we use such temporary equipment without destroying ourselves, destroying nature? The Bhakti Yoga texts tell us that, yes, we're spiritual entities having a human experience, and our human machinery, so to speak, is meant not simply for economic affairs, not simply for chasing a temporary buzz or thrill or stimulation. Our human machinery that our spiritual self wears is meant for solving the entire package problem of material existence. Now that really sounds ambitious, but yes, at the top rung of the yoga ladder you find that highest ambition and the knowledge and applied spiritual technology for reaching that highest ambition. I often point out that from the yogic point of view, material existence itself is a virus. We're pure spiritual entities. The question should be, how do we live so that we're in the world but not of the world? This is our real quest. We can start by dealing with stress, acknowledging it. I'm worried. Someone can say. I can say, you can say. And then own it. I'm feeling this stress because of such and such. I deeply care about such and such. So if we deeply care about something, we go to the third step. Let's use the stress as a motivating factor. The stress is there because we care about something. Now what are we going to do about what we care about? So the yoga knowledge says, yes, we must take care of these machines, and we certainly grieve for the bodily and mental sufferings of others. We don't want the world to be this way, with so much misery and stress, worry, and anxiety. At the same time, the yoga knowledge gives us a perspective of what doesn't change, although the body and mind are always changing. We need experience of that. In this way, we can make the best use of the crisis. Use it to push ourselves forward. Use it to motivate ourselves. And that way we won't waste the crisis. How can I make my life more genuinely spiritual? Do I have that kind of knowledge? Where can I get access to that kind of knowledge? What can I do to transform my lifestyle? I call it lifestyle engineering. Rather than just saying, I feel spiritual, let's become very practical. What can I do to change my lifestyle so that my happiness footprint is not so disturbing to the earth? What can I do to change my lifestyle so that I'm not part of the whole animal exploitation scene? $74 billion animals are slaughtered yearly throughout the world. Almost all that 74 billion are slaughtered on factory farms. confined animal feeding operations. So the spiritually aware person has a lot of work to do for ourselves and for society. You see, until people connect to that ultimate goal of life, the love supreme, the ultimate goal of yoga, they're going to always unnecessarily burden the earth and burden themselves. They don't have anything better. Many people want to be better, but where do they get the knowledge to do this? Therefore I say, and I've been saying it for years, of course, now is the time to bring that ancient Bhakti Yoga wisdom center stage. Put it in the spotlight of our life. There's something in that yoga knowledge that we've overlooked today. There's a missing link, a missing connection. Think about it. If we can add to our life this non-material knowledge, then we'll have the skills and techniques for transforming our lifestyle and teaching others how to do that. Then we'll see all living entities as equal and know how to deal with every living entity, no matter what shape, no matter what body. Then we'll understand how to cope with the differing happiness and distress levels that we see around us. We'll feel compassion, yet at the same time we'll feel the most compassion for those billions suffering because of a lack of understanding what is the real self, what is the supreme self, and what is the relationship between the two. The yoga texts teach us that this is an allegory, there are two birds on a tree. The tree represents the body. What are those two birds? One bird is busy eating the fruits of the tree. The other bird is watching. So the yoga texts use this tree and bird example as a way of teaching us that when we go within, when we go deep within due to our spiritual practice, what we will actually find is our non-material self and the supreme spiritual self. Both are equal in quality, but not in quantity. We're very tiny. And the supreme spiritual self is unlimited. Therefore, that supreme spiritual self is present along with the tiny self in every body. This is a crucial step in yoga. You can take that example of birds on a tree in another way. There used to be on the tree of a consumer society one bird called more and the other bird called better. It always seemed that those two birds would be together. The more you get, the better. Suddenly, human beings have realized there's just one bird on the tree now, more. But the bird known as better has flown off. In other words, we need to reappraise how our life is going and reevaluate society. The yoga knowledge gives us the perspective to be able to do all that. We need to change our relationship with nature. We need to change our relationship with the animals. We need to change our relationship with other human beings. What is the purpose of human society? Is it simply economic expansion? That conception has caused such havoc. Our happiness footprint is so burdensome. We need to change our conception and experience of happiness. And then you'll see a difference in how nature responds, how the earth responds. I appeal to you all that we have a lot of work to do, more than ever. The great work, the uplifting work. We need all the help and participants. From everywhere, from everyone. Remember, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Let's take advantage. Let's lift our game. Let's come together. In fact, that's what Kirtan is all about. Coming together for connecting to that love supreme, that ultimate source. Connecting to Krishna, the unlimitedly attractive. Then with clear vision, because of the Bhakti Yoga process, we can actually see what the real problem is underneath the superficial problems, which have to be dealt with. If you have a tumor in your arm or leg, certainly your associates, certainly I will grieve for you. Should we solve that problem of the tumor in your arm and leg by putting a bandage over it and having a long discussion? Should the bandage be put vertically or horizontally? You know, the tumor has to come out. It's the same with human society. Yes, we can do the stopgap measures, putting on the bandage, because people are suffering and we grieve because of that. But real compassion at its most profound level goes much deeper. Recognizing that our core problem is lack of non-material knowledge, lack of the experience of non-material happiness. So I leave you with these thoughts. Let's see. We have any questions? Please remember that after our discussion, there's going to be Kirtan with the Sydney Kirtan team. They'll be coming on through another live video. I really wanted to be there with you. In Sydney. I relish so much speaking to our friends and associates in Sydney. But as I said, not able to cross the ditch right now. But my heart is with you all. I'll pause for a couple of minutes to see if there are any questions. So please remember, Kirtan comes next. Kirtan is so therapeutic on all levels. Thank you very much.